I'm Doug Wimibish, and you're watching Dunlop TV. I realized I had a desire to express myself at a really young age, actually. I was in a singing group when I was 6, 7 years old with my cousins and stuff like that, trying to be like Smokey Robinson. My next door neighbor would get a little guitar, we turn it up, we didn't know what we were doing, just bang around on it, just make noise, and started to realize it's kind of cool, sounds good. You know, I can express myself by hitting this volume here and banging on some strings, but it was all in the community. It was everywhere. Music was everywhere, and where I grew up at. And my ears were just around. We were kids. We used to ride around the neighborhood and see what everybody's throwing out. My next door neighbor threw out a mandolin one year. Went over there and asked him if it was all right if I had it. They said, sure. That was my first instrument. It was a mandolin, had 8 strings. Eventually, 4 of them broke off. So I started to deal with 4 strings at a very early age. I got a guitar after that. And eventually, I found my way to bass via just, being around many guitar players. And there weren't that many bass players where I was at. And a lot of the guitar players, they were all competing with each other. So I would just... That guitar player I could learn some jazz from. That one I could learn funk, rock, and I found a way how to create my own program with my brothers and sisters, older friends, give them like $5 for a lesson or something like that. And that's how we did it in the community. I started getting gear and trading stuff. I'd get a guitar, wah-wah pedal or something. I traded for something else. We're kids. You didn't have money to go in a music store and go, Mom, I want a Fender Stratocaster. That was not on the playbook of my family at that time. That would have been a lot of yard cutting and shoveling, and I wouldn't have the back to be here talking to you today. But basically, it was, I remember I got an Ibanez replica of an SG. A friend of mine had a 72 jazz bass. The guy was looking for a guitar. He had a bass. So we did an even swap. That was how I got my first bass that was mine. Prior to that, I borrowed them from people. I think the first real amp that you're not gonna believe this. See, I was like one of these kind of kids that was like, well, I gotta make it myself, or I have to do it myself in order to have it. So I'd find these little components and didn't know what they were. One weekend we sat home and we took a dresser. I measured it out and tried to take it and gutted it out and put it, we found some speakers from somewhere, I don't know where it was. We drilled the speaker in there. It's hilarious. And I'll never forget this. We had drawers on the top. And basically we took a wire out, went from that, some kind of way. I remember going into an auxiliary sender, an auxiliary thing of an amplifier. It must have been a stereo system or something like that I kind of hot wired. Came on for a few minutes and I was happy. Very distorted. So I never followed anything but what I heard. And from when I was a kid, I spent time in the Bahamas listening to the ocean, spent time in Connecticut listening to crickets, whether it was I heard a woodpecker outside banging on something or, riding over a train track and the clacking of the tracks and stuff like that. And you start to hear these subliminal rhythms that just take place naturally on Earth, washing machine rattling, sink dripping. I always liked rhythm and sound, and the pedals can create different dialects that I like to speak in. It's like I started to find ways how to emulate drummers or horn players, keyboard players, guitar players, stuff like that, because I could do it. And over years, I found a way how to translate between a traditional bassist, in a sense, and to be able to paint in a more liberal fashion. So my whole thing has been able to just tether in between the reality of a job that I might be doing and also in keeping my sensibility of what the song needs sonically, but also being able to contribute what I feel is some unheard tones that may not be familiar to some people, but it's just natural to me. Music to me is a reflection of my life. How I live comes out in my music. And I like that. I like the different vibes of what the day brings. And I was blessed to be in, follow my dreams in it, and be around good people and good sonics. And every day has been a great adventure. I don't have a list of, I love to work with that. I like to work with everybody. I've done a lot of stuff with some Indian musicians. I lived in London. I work with my African friends, gypsy friends out of Prague, and many different places. Some friends in Australia. It's a community. It's one big family. It's one long note. So, I mean, when I've cut so many hit records. By the time I was 20 years old, I forgot about half the things that most people talk about. I've done a lot. You know, just from the hip hop movement, being the first bass player to pave the road for that, to the industrial side with Tackhead, to what we're doing with Living Color. Many different genres of music that you will maybe never hear or know. But so to me, that's the reward, is be able to still meet new friends and connect, and be able to paint where the colors are sometimes vivid, or sometimes I'm the one that's just rinsing the brush off for another painter.